This study was my doctoral research at the University of Pennsylvania. At that time, naturalistic SLA researchers claimed that L2 instruction does not make a significant difference. Learners need meaningful input or interaction, and their innate language acquisition device does the rest. Researchers also recently had obtained evidence of developmental sequences bolstering that position, according to some. Others, however, argued that instruction could potentially make SLA more efficient and ultimately more effective. That idea was interesting to me because I had been an ESL teacher. During my doctoral coursework, we read all the empirical studies on the potential effects of L2 instruction. At that time, it was actually possible to do that. The poor quality of the design of those studies shocked me. To waive the expensive Penn tuition, I'd been working as a technician in a biochemical lab studying myelination. Of course, in that research context, our experiments had manipulated treatments and controls so we could understand the catalytic effects of certain enzymes. I wanted to try that kind of study, but classrooms are very messy places to conduct experiments. So I designed two computer-delivered treatments, one meaning-based and the other rule-based, reflecting the still ongoing debate in our field about whether adults learn best implicitly or explicitly. And of course, there was a control group. There were two surprises in my findings. The first put me into a slight panic. It turned out that the control group improved during the course of my study. That never happens in biochemical assays. My control group was an exposure-only group. In other words, they read the same online material but without any instruction on the learning target. That result, improvement by a control group, has shown up in many other studies since then. Language acquisition indeed is robust, and there can be some learning without any instruction, provided there is exposure. I was then relieved to see that both instructed groups outperformed the control group. Here comes the second surprise. I had expected the meaning group to do better than the rule group, but the two instructed groups improved by about the same amount. By examining the two online treatments, I figured it out. In my effort to remove jargon from the rule treatment, I had actually created another kind of meaning treatment, one with attention to form, which we would now call focus on form. And since I wanted to make sure that the meaning group noticed the target of instruction, I used input enhancement to draw their attention, another kind of focus on form. In other words, the two instructional treatments were more similar than different, but clearly attention to form during a meaningful activity did make a difference. No, I certainly did not think my study would influence the field to this extent. But back then, you couldn't miss the explosion of carefully designed investigations of L2 instruction, many published in this very journal. A decade after my own study came out, a meta-analysis of the effects of various kinds of implicit and explicit instruction was published. Now there's an entire subfield of SLA known as instructed SLA, which even has its own specialized journal. And on the cutting edge, we're addressing the fascinating question of how an adult learner's aptitude might interact with instruction that capitalizes on that aptitude. This work will inform differentiated learning, such as adaptive learning online. Our goal is the same. How can we make instruction more efficient and effective? But now we use insights and techniques from previous empirical SLA research and memory and processing studies. For me, it's very rewarding to see that well-designed studies have become the norm in ISLA research.